Hello, we're in Nairobi, Kenya today. We're at Africa Harvest. We're excited today because we have Dr. Florence Wambugu, founder and director, CEO of Africa Harvest. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, Wambugu, can you give us a little background of how you started, how you got into the agriculture sector?
Thank you, Wendy. I got into agriculture sector by history background, meaning I came from a farming background, from a smallholder farmer, and I came from a big family. We were 10, I was number 6. Food was so hard to find, and so I always thought if I get a chance to study, I'll study agriculture so I can increase food for not only my family but all the families that know who need food. So I went to university, studied agriculture, pursued an agriculture career, got up to a PhD. But more important, my first study was within, and then I got a job with Kenya Agriculture Research Institute. So I worked in the public sector for 12 years. And then I just felt I wasn't still, and then I got direct to a research job. So I'm a top researcher. And then I felt, hey, I'm researching, but something is missing. Between what I'm researching and what the moms are doing, there's still that gap of real need to transfer the knowledge that I am researching so that the farmers are using that knowledge to increase their productivity. And of course, my area of passion is crop protection.
So is that how that's the reason why you started Africa Harvest?
Yeah, true that, as I said, my background in research. Remember, I have a post-PhD in genetic engineering. In genetic engineering, the what is feared by people, but that's all my post-PhD. And of course, even my PhD was still in agriculture. And even that itself was still in the area of science, innovations, technology. How do we increase productivity? How do we fight the insects and so on? And I worked for International Institute, ISAAA, which is an organization that was transferring technology from America to Africa for a good 7 years. Yeah, still in the NGO sector, post now working for the corporate sector, because I work for the corporate sector in the United States. And then the passion for Africa Harvest was to do more in terms of technology transfer now from research institutions, international research, like all these international CG Center, like Kick Research, ITA, and there are many, as well as private sector, even Kenya Agriculture Research, where I worked for 12 years, because I could still see this gap, and I'm not the only one. And I could see this traditional extension is not working very well for our farmers. We still have a lot of goods and products from research. And even if we can't change the whole of Africa, maybe we can create models of success that people can copy. And so the motivation was truly to bring the impact of science, technology, innovation to the smallholder farmers.
We're used to a lot of researchers, not researchers, but just research is being done and just left. We have the results, everything findings left, but how do you transfer it to the smallholder farmers or communicate it to the public? So can you tell us some of the projects Africa Harvest has done?
Yes, we have done a number of projects that truly demonstrate this impact is tangible, is measurable, and we have done it in 2 components. One of it is simply taking technologies from international centers. Let me give a good example is sorghum, although I'll talk on banana as well, where researchers in Kenya Agriculture Research, in IC Research, for years have developed very good varieties of sorghum. But these good varieties of sorghum had not reached the farmer. We started working together 6-7 years ago, and these varieties are what makes a difference. So when we started partnering, we say, now you are good on research, we are good on dissemination of research. Why don't we start working together and see how this can cause impact? Because even everybody wants to have impact, including the international center, private sector do not want to invest in the value chain. They want to sell, but then you have to develop the value chain. And so through support, of course, from International Fund for Africa Development, IFAD, we got a grant together, which is very good. And we started together now testing those varieties and with the farmers, and not with the farmers, actually with the end users. So with people who need livestock feed from sorghum, people who need fish feed from sorghum, people who need food for sorghum, people who need malting companies. And so we opened a whole industry that didn't exist with new varieties, because new variety brings diversity of products. Diversity of products means there's more for farmers. beyond that, we also started scaling up of the increasing productivity. Most of our farmers in Kenya and Tanzania were producing sorghum like half a ton per acre, per hectare. We moved that 3 times, under 50%, yeah. And then we ring to the market because the markets are there. And that's the most interesting scenario. How do you have a technology, very, very important, you increase productivity, you bring mechanization, because to share these sorghum into good quality, now you bring mechanization. From there, then you need to bring the seed companies to multiply the seed. From there, then you need the buyers. And what you find across Africa is that the off-takers are looking for supply. They want volume, they want quality, they want timely delivery. And that's why this huge import bill, whether it's sorghum, whether it's rice, whether it's maize, whether it's wheat, the challenging situation is like, we want volume, we want quality delivery, we want timely delivery. Otherwise, we are going to import. And you know the import bill is about 35 billion US dollars and, in Africa. And because to aggregate the smallholder farmers is a challenge, we developed a special model, we call it an aggregator model, or inclusive marketing, where we support, let's say we find a woman or a man who is aggressive as a business person. And what we do is support them to get a loan from the bank. When they get loan, they buy a tractor. That means they can actually plow land for others, because the hoe and the jab is not longer, women can no longer produce what is needed for the market. And then this lady or this man now become the one who supports to increase because to increase productivity you need to plow more land. The hoe and the jab will not do. This same person will help to disseminate the seed. She also aggregates the produce, yeah, and then she supports others. And that way you have an inclusive business model. And then the off-takers can come and off-take from there. You're also creating jobs for the youth, the transporters as well as fertilizer suppliers, pest control people are there. And so you're creating a business around the rural areas. You're really developing business within the rural areas. And we have a number of these. We have a lady called Beatrice Nkatha. When we met, she was simply the $1 woman a day. She was living in a small house doing some knitting or something like that. But now she has a group of 15,000 women she's aggregating for. She's supplying over 10,000 metric tons of sorghum to the millers and so on. So this innovation, because if you look at the whole import bill in Africa, it is really very much because the big companies are saying smallholder farmers are a big challenge to aggregate. Yeah, they can't meet quality, they can't meet timely delivery, they can't meet the volumes. And we have developed a model that can do exactly that with sorghum, which we can use for rice, we can use for wheat, we can use for other crops.
So you work with the researchers, but you're not necessarily the researchers?
No. We are not the researchers because there's so much research. We know about research, which is good, because if you remember what happened in the Western countries, professors are the ones who do research, isn't it? Research is complicated. If you say dissemination of research from university is going to be done by the traditional extension, sometimes there are challenges. But you find when you look at the Western countries, who does researchers? It's the university professors. That means there's room for people even like us to be involved in the dissemination, really not extension, dissemination of research along the whole value chain, so that if there are complicated questions, you can answer. And again, if you look why we are successful is that most of the off-takers are asking you, before I can actually buy this or take this into my production for feed, I want analysis. That is not going to come from a traditional extension. We have to go work with our partners, do the analysis, they compare the stash of this new variety with what they were doing. Then they say, oh, instead of using barley, which is imported, I can use the sorghum, which is produced by smallholder farmers. And then you have to go to the seed companies. Before we can produce this, we are business people. We are not going to produce, we are not farmers to sell to. So that complicated way of developing a business around the rural areas, it needs indigenous knowledge, it needs international understanding, it needs working with international partners. And that's why there's room for organizations, even which are high-level organizations, also to have an outreach arm. And I think that is evolving now. You have got several international centers also being involved in dissemination of technologies. For example, a very good example is the TAD program of Africa Development Bank, where the President Adesina is involved in supporting the CG centers to disseminate the technologies together with the partners along the value chain down to the smallholder farmers.
How long does it take to actually get like an estimate before it actually gets on the farmers' fields?
Now it took us about 1 year to stabilize understanding, because the farmers are used to certain varieties. Now they'll not go until they see where is this new variety going to take us. Do we have a market for it? And to assemble the other ones to come and also convince them, if you produce, please don't import barley, local farmers. If you grow this variety called gadam, which is white, it's very similar like barley, let's do analysis, it's going to create an opportunity for you. And so because of the intricacies that involved, and then you have to be gradually increasing the production, as the seed companies are building the stocks, and we are doing extension for the off-taker. So it takes about 3 years. And then by 5 years, it's a big success story. For example, sorghum now, Africa Harvest and Partners, where we have championed, we have delivered over 49,000 metric tons of sorghum. Our farmers have made over $4.9 million US. They are no longer in mud houses. They are wearing, they are actually in stone houses. A place the original fort, everybody was mud house, now they're stone houses. They have tractors, they have cars, their lives changed. Yes, and absolutely. And these are dry areas where they were very, very poor, depending on food aid. That means we can change Africa with the technology, with the knowledge, with investment. Yeah, and tractors are being sold there. This free for all. So those innovation is not just a tractor. Innovation is not just this. Is bringing the different components to a point where everybody can benefit. The researchers are happy. The farmer is happy. The bank is happy. The bank is lending money now to be able to buy tractors. Youth are happy because they're involved in the serious aspects. And so these are the kind of things we need to scale up in Africa.
So we'll talk about the banana as well. I know you work on the banana project. Banana to grow faster, higher yields, and requires less chemical. Can you talk about more about the banana project?
Banana project is again another very historic one, which is a success story. We started it about, let's say, over 10 years ago, and gradually it was because Kenya as a country was importing bananas from Uganda. And I went to South Africa and I saw that actually they're exporting bananas. South Africa is not even a banana country, it's subtropical. There's only one valley called Zanin Valley, which is shielded by mountains and is warm, and they even have to cover their bananas with bags in winter. So I thought, how comes with such a good climate in Kenya, and here we can't even grow banana? What are the issues? And so we begin to look at land from South Africa. What did they do? We developed with Kenya Agriculture Research Institute, because their researchers evaluate for example, the agronomic, which varieties we do where, because we need diverse varieties. And then we need to have some investors to invest in local labs. You can't be bringing seed from South Africa. And then the next thing is, how do we space? Because we hadn't really done this seriously. Some universities like JQAT had some tests, but that's really a university test. They could not make a big impact countrywide. Countrywide need mobilization. Need working with smallholder farmers, work more into groups. And so we begin to do a nationwide. Kari has centers all over. Now it's called Kalo. They have many centers, so we could do many tests across. Beyond the test then was, can we do it as a business? Because success comes when a farmer gets some seedlings, they plant, then they go and buy and they plant. Okay, we found there are some challenges, like the seedlings are a bit costly for the farmer, and they still a bit costly now. But if we subsidize, they can do better. But beyond that, we realize there are people farmers, even these smallholder farmers have their sons and daughters who are working in Nairobi. They can always sell them money. When they show them, there's potential. So the farmer themselves got into groups, some got loans, small loans, and where microcredit, they begin to plant. And the next thing is that it was so successful because they could see the fruits. Before they had fruits. These fruits are not resistant, but they're highly tolerant. And because we're planting in large numbers, they're able to push the disease away. Yeah, and so slowly over years, it became a serious business. The yields moved from 15 to 25 to 35 and beyond, even 45, some places 60 tons, fruits, bunches. Yeah. Now here the technology, the management, and the market. These are the three components you can separate in development. The technology, which is the research, and then there is the investment, and there is the market. And what we find over time, the market is already demanding quality, volume, and timely delivery. The market is there in Africa. Whether it's a banana, whether it's sorghum, whether it's rice, first we have our big own market. Because a country like this, Kenya is now a banana producing country. Before we are an importer. We used to import from Uganda, and with that we used to import diseases. And so the technology comes because we are producing good quality, what you call seedlings from the laboratory. They are high yielding, they come into fruiting the same time, more or less, they're synchronized. That means if you plant 1,000, you can expect 1,000 bunches to be almost ready within a very short time. That means if you find a market, you can actually get your calculator and pay your loan. So now doing the business. And truly, farmers make so much money. And we also came a time when the farmers have had these structural adjustments from IMF. Many people have been laid off. Coffee was not, the area for coffee, it was not producing, coffee would become a very difficult crop because there's no market. So many of the coffee farmers took banana as they started making money. And so Kenya now is a country that's looking for where do we do our fruits. We need to turn our fruits into juice, into jam, into this, into that. Now we are talking about value adding, processing. And truly the success is, of course, the partnerships that came to join, investment. And let me talk about investment. We cannot develop without investing in agriculture. And again, this I must emphasize this because in terms of countries of Africa, there have been a big discrepancy because the politicians say that, agriculture is our regional economic growth. But instead of inventing the 10% they promise of the GDP, they invest very little. We have to invest. Agriculture, I completely agree with the president of Africa Development Bank, Dr. Akina Desina, that is an investment thing. If you don't invest in agriculture, you continue actually to suffer low yields, you continue to import. So there's room for actually investing. In terms of malnutrition, we have seen in many families when they have money, they buy nutritious things. They buy nutritious foods. Whether we are dealing, we also have, of course, grown some crop targeting malnutrition, like the origin fresh sweet potato, high iron beans. We have supported many projects in legumes. Even in arid area, we don't just do sorghum, we also do cowpea and other legumes. We have also, in fact, supported what we call small livestock, chicken, poultry, dairy goats bloom in some areas, like those are dry. So we think holistically. Believe me, we have also done with water. Oh. Yeah, not dams, what we call like roof catchment, sand dams, because women go for long distance to get water in the dry areas. Yeah.